All right, so I think we are good. We are live on our YouTube as well, and our session has been put to record as well. And therefore, students who wish to take another view later on, a more scrutinized look, a more revised look, please feel free to watch the webinar that's going to happen on our YouTube channel. I think we have our participants rolling in. So meanwhile, I'll just start with a brief introduction about Next Genius. Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Devika Agarwal from Next Genius Scholarship Program. And thank you for joining us in for the very last session of the day on exploring majors about healthcare, biology, pre-med with Professor Patricia Hunt from Juniata College. A little about Next Genius. We are a registered charitable trust founded in 2014, and we help high school students, that is grade 12, and also students who are in their gap year with full tuition scholarships at our partner colleges and universities in the United States. And I'm very happy to say that we have been partnered with Juniata College since a long time now, and we have a very strong Next Genius community on campus. So if you are in your grade 12, please visit our website, nextgenius.com, and do apply for the scholarships for the year 2020. All right, here's a little about our Professor Patricia Hunt. She's also the Director of Healthcare Professions at Juniata College. And one of the sayings that I read and I really like about is that a trust is the trust that is found in a genuinely therapeutic environment is also a catalyst to create change. And I believe that this holds a lot of significance. Also, also Professor Hunt has received certification as volunteer rape crisis counselor and has also been a facilitator with Green Dot Violence Prevention Program. So I welcome you on board today, and let's see how the structure, how biology, pre-med and healthcare undergraduate programs are structured across 4 years or 5 years. And over to you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see here. Let's see here. How can I start the slideshow? There we go. Maybe. There we go. Okay, so I'm here to talk to you today about biology and health professions programs and how they work across four-year institutions. Just to start off, again, my name is Tricia Hunt. I'm the director of the Health Professions Program here at Juniata College. We're a small liberal arts college located in central Pennsylvania. In terms of biology, biology is the study of all life. And so students who choose to study biology will have a wide range of specializations to choose from. They will take courses in genetics, cellular biology, some pre-medicine courses in epidemiology and virology, maybe histology, so looking at various tissues at a microscopic level, neuroscience, and then also we don't forget about plant sciences and ecology because that's also part of the biology curriculum. Biology students are afforded vast research opportunities. Many students get graduate quality lab experiences with world-renowned faculty where they are able to publish their own independent research or present at national and international conferences. And so biology is very hands-on. A lot of the courses that you take in biology will have some sort of laboratory component to them. And so typical courses found in a biology curriculum may include biochemistry and molecular biology. A lot of times, some institutions have a separate biology or biochemistry department. Other institutions sort of share responsibilities for the biochemistry area between their biology professors and then their chemistry professors as well. You'll also experience courses in developmental biology, toxicology, ecology, invertebrate zoology, so looking at insects and mollusks and some animals from the ocean, or land animals, ichthyology, ornithology courses. Nutrition courses are a lot of times taught in biology programs in some way. And that for the pre-health students, you're going to get your cellular biology, your physiology, your anatomy courses, reproductive biology. And so all of those courses tend to be taught in a biology curriculum. focusing, because I wanted to focus a little bit more on the health professions here, I wanted to walk you through some areas of health professions because, you know, medicine seems to be the area that most people are familiar with, but there's a vast variety of areas that students can work in the health professions. And these include areas like dentistry, physician assistant, occupational and speech therapies, nursing, veterinary. Some students want to work with animals, and so large animal vet or small animal veterinary medicine, naturopathy. But then there's some other areas in like social work and genetic counseling where it's a lot working with individual patients and helping them through, you know, whatever health crisis they may be experiencing at the time. For all health professions, a solid academic foundation is key. And so I wanted to present this slide just to give you an idea of the average GPA for a lot of health professions programs. You know, and it is quite competitive. And so allopathic medicine is probably the most competitive field in general. And that's the MD that everyone's familiar with. And then, you know, as you get down to the other fields, you know, it's important that you have a strong foundation in academics. There we go. All right, so medicine. A lot of students are interested in medicine. In the United States, we have two educational models for medicine. There's allopathic medicine and osteopathic medicine. Allopathic medicine is probably the more popular. There are more programs in the United States that are in the allopathic area. They'd certainly get more applicants every year. That number's from 2019. I've heard from the American Association of Medical Colleges that the number of applicants this cycle, so this summer, is actually closer to 70,000 applicants in the system. And so there's a lot of people applying this year. There are many MD, PhD programs. So students who have more of an academic focus to their medical desires, there's a lot of MD, PhD programs out there. Licensing occurs through the USMLEs. And then they participate in the US, we participate in a match program. Osteopathic medicine, on the other hand, there are fewer programs. Very few DO PhD programs, so not as much of a research focus in osteopathic medicine. They take similar licensing exams, and they also participate in the same residency match program. This slide is just more of a compare and contrast to the two. The Mcat, so where it says average Mcat, the Mcat is the exam that students take as their entrance exam into medical school. There is a difference between allopathic and osteopathic schools in terms of what score they use. Osteopathic medicine seems to be a little bit more holistic. They also tend to take candidates who are more non-traditional. And so that's why you see a lower Mcat score in that area. Repetition of courses, you know, it depends on the school. One thing that's factored in for all pre-medicine students is a science GPA. And a science GPA is calculated by using your biology, chemistry, physics, and math courses only for the allopathic schools. So any course you take that has a prefix of biology, chemistry, those will be included. Osteopathic medicine, they don't include math, but they include something like other sciences. So if a student takes a statistics course or a microbiology course that has a different heading, neuroscience is another area that osteopathic schools will include in a science GPA, because a lot of times neuroscience courses are either taught in a biology department or they may be taught through a psychology department. They have required letters of recommendation, but what's most impactful, I think, for this presentation is the number of international enrollees. So you can see the number of international enrollees is quite small for medicine here in the United States. And that is true. There are some challenges and considerations for international applicants to medical school. And so I'm going to address those a little bit. The first challenge is unfortunately finances. Most pre-health institutions require some sort of escrow account to be established for the student. it varies amongst schools how many years of tuition they want paid up front. So there are some programs out there that only ask for a year to be put in an escrow account, but there are institutions out there that will ask for all 4 years up front. You do not have access to federal funding in the United States. So you're primarily going to be looking at private bank loans, some governments will sponsor students for medical education in the United States. And there are some scholarships out there that are merit-based. So, the more academically achieving you are, there are some scholarships out there for non-US citizens. Challenge number 2 is just obtaining an offer. This is some national data. It's a few years old in terms of from individual schools, how many international applications they receive. And so schools, will accept, anywhere between 20, they may receive anywhere between 26 and about 800 applications. Typically they receive about 400 applications. They offer anywhere from 0 to 67 interviews to international applicants. Typically for your private medical schools, they may interview about 25 international students, but they only really accept, so matriculant is the students who actually start medical school, and that ranges anywhere from about 1 to 20 with an average of 5. And so the international pool, applicant pool is in medical school is about less than 2% of the population. So we have to sort of think outside the box as an international student. And so there's some alternative pathways to medicine, not to say that the door is closed, but we may have to think outside the box. One of those alternative pathways, and probably the most common alternative, is through MD, PhD programs. These are students where they combine some traditional academic graduate school research desires to help supplement the MD, the medical education. And so a lot of times through those programs, you can get some advocacy from the graduate school portion to help advocate for accepting you into the medical education program. Sometimes those are combined into through the medical school, and sometimes they're separated, and it's a separate MD program through the medical school and a separate PhD program through the graduate school of that institution. A lot of the funding for the PhD portion is available to international students, and so a lot of students will do that through medical scientist training programs. Alternative pathway number 2 is just taking some what we call glide years or second gap years after your college education. A lot of times this is a way to establish more money to pay for it up front. You may be able to find some sponsorship from an employer or through your government, more experiences, or you'd have the opportunity to gain permanent residency or citizenship in the United States. And that will go a long way to helping you get into a US medical school. Alternative pathway number 3 is through a non-US medical school. So this could be a medical school in your home country or through an offshore or non-US medical school. So those could be schools in the Caribbean, Australia, Ireland, Israel, Mexico. And students who do offshore medical schools do have the opportunity to apply for the United States match program, so the national match program here in the US. So it is possible to go to an international medical school and still come back and do a residency in the United States and ultimately practice in the United States if that's your goal. Another pathway that a lot of international students will explore is another clinical program. And so while medicine has some barriers to it, a lot of other clinical programs do not have barriers. And so areas such as pharmacy, nursing, dentistry, podiatry, and optometry they are very international friendly. And so it's important to recognize that we can't, that we need to sometimes think outside the box and recognize that there are alternatives to medicine that are more welcoming to international populations. And so I'm going to go through a couple of those alternative clinical pathways. So the first is dentistry. Dentistry is an area that they are one of those areas that do require a significant amount of money up front through escrow. But you can see the international enrollment for 2018 was about 4.2%. So it is a little bit higher than the medical school, than the medical area. It does require 4 years of academic study after graduation from university. But there are 10 different specialties beyond a general practice, such as orthodontics, oral surgery, pediatrics, endodontics, oral pathology. And so these are ways that you can sort of really specialize and get a way to work with patients in a very clinical way. Next is optometry. There are 23 schools of optometry in the United States, and there's about a 74% acceptance rate for all optometry schools. They are very international friendly. About 50% of international students who apply on a given year are accepted into optometry school. It does also requires 4 years of schooling, and you can even specialize in that too, such as low vision, neurological sciences, behavioral optometry. And so there's lots of different ways you can even further your education in that area as well. Pharmacy school. Pharmacy school is incredibly international friendly. There are 144 schools of pharmacy in the United States and Canada. There's a Mcat is the application system. So not all the schools participate in that system. But you can see of pharmacy schools, 71% of international students were accepted. And so honestly, that's incredible. It does require 3 to 4 years of academic study, but you do not actually need to finish your bachelor's degree in order to matriculate into pharmacy school. So a lot of pharmacy schools, they just want students to have some prerequisite coursework. And for some programs, once you finish that prerequisite coursework, you can jump right into a PharmD program. Podiatry is probably one of the forgotten medical fields, or just there's less emphasis on it. There are 9 US programs here in the United States. They do expect students to take the Mcat just like a medical student, but there are several DPM PhD programs. So if you are interested in research, there's definitely ways that you can do that. Podiatry focuses primarily on the foot and ankle. And so podiatrists do surgery, they do therapies, but they're kind of like orthopedic surgeons but they only work with like the ankles and the feet. So if you're interested in surgery, this could be a great alternative route that gives you sort of the high energy, the attention to detail that draws people to surgery. You can also do this through a podiatry program. So again, there's lots of different areas in medicine that you should consider if you're interested in healthcare. You don't have to limit yourself just to medicine. And so just again to show you the wide variety of areas that exist out there. All of these programs though are highly competitive, and so we need to be conscious of the things that health profession schools are going to look for. And so, first and foremost is going to be your academic record. Did you complete all the prerequisites? What is your GPA? Standardized test scores. This is how they're going to say, can you academically handle the rigors of our professional school? Outside of that, another big portion of what they evaluate candidates on is things like letters of recommendation, your healthcare related experiences, research experiences, extracurriculars. So how do you spend your time? I hear from a lot of admissions personnel in medical school and dental schools and the other health professions areas. They really want to know how students spend their time. So are they involved in extracurriculars on campus? Do they take on leadership roles? Study abroad, internships, co-ops. Do you understand the practice of health profession? They look for professionalism and maturity, and an awareness of diversity. So these are all the things that they look for when they're evaluating candidates. So that's really all I have. Again, my name is Trisha Hunt, and there's my email if anybody has any specific questions. But at this time, we're just going to open it up to some Q&A.
Yes, so we do have a question in the Q&A box. So someone asks that, I'm curious to know what are the career prospects in the field of biochemistry?
Okay, in the field of I've worked with several students who have done majors in biochemistry, and really it runs the gamut. Some students are interested in medicine. I do find a lot of students who are interested in pharmacy go through a biochemistry route. In that, I've worked with students who want to work in more biotechnology. So either through development of new biotechnologies or working in a lab, creating efficiencies, creating tests. Those are some of the areas I think that are most appealing to students who go into biochemistry.
Great. Someone asks about the current pandemic situation and what kind of health internships can one consider?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's very hard right now. Most healthcare facilities are not allowing people in, and so some things that our students are doing is we have set up a buddy program with a local health elder care facility, and so students are Zooming in with residents. They can't meet personally, but they're doing things over Zoom, just checking in. They're sending little notes and cards and maybe having cookies delivered to their buddies. So those are some of the things that you can do right now. I have other students who are involved in some mental health counseling where it's a text program where they kind of take somebody who says, I just want somebody to check in on me, and it's a texting thing. They just use their phone. So right now it is very difficult. But you know, if you can be creative, then you can find some areas that'll work for you.
Great. Kushi asks about physiotherapy and she wants to know, is it a medical course or a pre-medical course?
So physiotherapy, I'm gonna assume that you're talking about physical therapy. That is a separate area, a separate healthcare area. They have their own professional schools. Their professional training is about 2 years postgraduate training, but they work with people who have been in car accidents or after surgeries to get that the physical mobility back. And so yeah, in health professions, we work with students who are interested in those areas as well.
Great. Is it a good idea to major in psychology if one wants to pursue medicine?
Okay. Honestly, when it comes to medicine, you should major in whatever makes you happy. Right now, actually, I'm working with a student who's a history major, and he is probably one of our top candidates this cycle for medical school. And so you want to pick a major that interests you. You want to pick a major that challenges you. And I will say most psychology programs do have the prerequisite courses for medical school and dental school and other health profession schools already built into them because they know a lot of their students are headed in that direction.
Great. Someone asks, is physics a prerequisite for biochemistry?
It is. So one of the biggest components of biochemistry is also thermodynamics. And so yes, physics is at least 8 credits of physics, depending on your institution. Some institutions teach physics in an 8-credit series, so two 4-credit courses. Other schools do it as a 12-credit series. So yes, physics is required.
Great. So I feel the next question is about exobiology, and someone asks that, would you say that exobiology courses are provided in many universities in the US?
I will say they are provided. They may not necessarily be a requirement for health profession school.
All right. Kia wants to know about the prospects in nutrition.
Mm-hmm. So I worked with several students who have a passion for nutrition, and so they are looking. So some students in that area go on to medical school. Other students go on to becoming registered dietitians, and so they'll do more of a dietetics option through their nutrition program. You know, because there's the idea out there that food is medicine, and a lot of ailments can be treated simply with dietary changes. And so I think there's going to be a lot of growth in the area of nutrition, just centered around the idea that food is medicine.
Great. So the next question I feel is really interesting. So, in India, we have competitive exams for medicine, say NEET, NEET. So Prithviraj asks that, all right, so in India, we have a competitive exam NEET. So do we need to appear that to get in any of the reputed private colleges in the United States?
I think you need to do well. Having strong academics is something that's going to be important as you move forward. And so, anything that you can do to help show that you have a solid academic basis and a solid academic foundation will be of a benefit to you.
Right. Kushi has a follow-up question that she wants to know what could be done after becoming a dietitian or a nutritionist.
So some people who become registered dietitians or nutritionists work in a variety of settings. Some do have their own businesses and they work one-on-one doing personal coaching. Other nutritionists might work with local schools to provide healthy meals for young children. I actually have one of my friends is a registered dietitian and she works. I actually have two. One works as a nutritionist in a cancer center. So she works with cancer patients to make dietary adjustments to help them through chemo and radiation therapies, because some foods that they may have been able to tolerate, they can't tolerate anymore. And so she will work with those students. I also have another student who actually works for Good Housekeeping, which is a magazine here in the United States. And she does food testing, new food testing. And so there's a lot of opportunity for dietitians out there.
That's very interesting. Shilpa asks that, could you give us some examples of the kinds of research projects that high school students can do in biology and chemistry?
So high school students are a little bit unique. I mean, a lot of the high school students that I've known who have done research, it's usually because their parent works at a medical school or a large medical system, and so they will get involved in that. But the research at the collegiate level, so at university, really it depends on what the student's interested. So some students who are interested in, sort of oncology, cancer sciences, disease, working with disease, various diseases, will get involved in microbiology labs or virology labs. Some students who will get involved in animal research, so looking, taking model organisms, so maybe it's a fish and looking at how they process various proteins. Other students will do research. I've had students do research in psychology where they work with various mental illnesses, doing research in that area. It really just depends on the research being done on your campus and what most interests you. Medical schools, they don't really care what kind of research you do. So it's not like you have to do biological research or chemistry research. It's just a matter of you getting into the lab, asking scientific questions or asking sciences, showing a curiosity about the world. And so you can learn that way. They want those lab skills that way in terms of curiosity. And then can you develop a plan to sort of solve your problem?
All right. So are international students eligible for BS or MD programs?
There are some programs out there where it's the accelerated BSMD programs. And those are sometimes open to international students. It's going to depend a lot on who the program is through. The most international friendly the accelerated programs are going to be the programs that are tied to private institutions. So not state medical schools. So it depends what the institute, like something like a Dartmouth does have an accelerated program with Geisel, their medical school there at Dartmouth. And that's a private institution. Some other schools like Rutgers, they may have an accelerated program with the Rutgers Medical School, but since they're a state school and receive state government funding, they may not be as open to international schools. So you're just going to have to look at the programs and see what type of medical school on the back end they're attached to, because it may be a state school attached to a private medical school. For example, Penn State here in Pennsylvania, their accelerated agreement is actually not with the Penn State Medical School, it's with Thomas Jefferson down in Philadelphia, and that's a private institution, and so they do take international students there.
All right. So how effective is agrochemistry as a career in the field of science and also in terms of income?
So agrochemistry is an interesting field. So I actually started out my academic career in agriculture. So this question is really kind of interesting to me. And I think agrochemistry is definitely an area that you could get into. I mean, there are chemicals used in the production of food across the world. And I think it's important for those chemicals to be safe. And so I think it's a very growing field. I think it's a new field. As the public is demanding safer and safer food resources, I think that area is going to keep growing as people need to find ways to manage both do both pest management, you know, and maintain quality yields while doing that in the safest way possible.
All right. So someone says that he's interested in biology as a major and wants to go to med school. So what major would exactly help him out? So I think he's a little confused.
Okay, yeah, so you can major in biology, that's fine. In fact, probably 75% of medical school applicants major in biology. It is the most common. But honestly, when it comes to major, you want something that is interesting, you want something that fulfills some sort of intellectual curiosity for you, and you want something that is going to challenge you. You're gonna need something that's gonna challenge you, whether that's biology or whether that's, you know, something like philosophy. You know, as long as you have the prerequisite courses, it does not matter what your major is.
Right. So there are two physics related questions. Firstly, is physics a required subject for nutrition, and is it required, or and second one, is physics required in high school to get into a medical program?
Okay. So physics is required in nutrition, but it doesn't have to be a high level calculus based physics course. It can be something that's more of like physics for general students, just sort of an overview course. In terms of high school, honestly, I think it's good to have had exposure to physics, but it's not a requirement.
All right. Is it a good idea to take neuroscience as a research, or should we go for medicals?
I think neuroscience is great. It's definitely a new field that's being offered by colleges and universities. It is, you know, it's the study of the brain, and the brain is the thing that makes our bodies work. And so I think understanding it is important. I don't necessarily think that it's required in a medical program or a pre-medical program. I also see another question down here about what's the difference between neuroscience and neurobiology. Nothing. It's just a name. So really, there's nothing really different about. Really, it depends. The difference in name usually comes from which department is hosting it or housing it. And so if it's coming from a psychological or behavioral science department, they tend to call it neuroscience. If it's coming from a biology department, they tend to call it neurobiology. But the names are synonyms for each other.
Great. Someone asks that he's taken history in high school, so will it be a disadvantage for US school applications?
History?
Yeah, I think, yeah, history as a subject.
Oh, okay. Honestly, it doesn't matter. Medical schools want a diverse population, and so they want students who can connect with their patients, and they do, like all medical schools require some sort of liberal arts courses as part of their requirements, and they like to see students who have those liberal arts courses under their belts. Liberal arts courses make you, they work on communication skills and interaction skills with people, and so they are important to medical schools, and they like to see liberal arts courses that a student takes. Honestly, most institutions are going to require you to take some liberal arts courses, some art courses during your undergraduate, just in your general education curriculum. And so I think taking those courses as the high school student helps you figure out what areas you like, and then you can take more specialized courses in in college, just focusing on the specific areas of history and English that you like versus the ones you didn't like.
Right. So Nandini Jain asks that, are there undergrad courses that offers pharmacy or biochemistry related courses in the US, and what are the kind of requirements for the same?
Yeah, so there are some programs there's a lot of accelerated pharmacy programs in the United States where it's like a 6-year program. And so you do the first, 3 years focus on prerequisite courses, some biology, mainly chemistry courses and biochemistry courses. And then your last 3 years will focus on the pharmacy specific courses. So like physical chemistry, drug interactions, those sorts of courses. Pharmacy schools they definitely require inorganic and organic chemistry. They typically require a biochemistry course, maybe even a biochemistry 2 course. They do usually, typically in the biology area, they recommend physiology for pharmacy students. And so those are some of the typical courses in pharmacy, the pharmacy schools are requiring. They also in pharmacy school require some business courses and economics courses, because a lot of pharmacy students end up working with the public and working in commercial pharmacy areas. And so they also do require some business courses in pharmacy as well.
All right. So this is interesting. Warren asks, due to pandemic situation, how can I do my research project in genetics?
You may have to do more literature reviews instead of actual hands-on laboratory experiences. You know, it depends on the lab that you're working with and the PI that you're working with. Some PIs, you know, are letting students in the lab facilities. Some PIs are doing it where they're giving students more independent things that they can work on their own. Other PIs have said, nope, I'm not letting anybody in my lab. And so maybe you have to ask more for some literature review kind of research, more you know, reading, getting background education, seeing what is done in the literature already and what is working and what is not working, versus actually being in a lab doing actual tests using, you know, laboratory materials.
Great. Reeti is interested in veterinary medicine. So she wants to know a little about it, a future of it.
Okay. Veterinary medicine is obviously also all areas of healthcare is a growing, you know, need, especially as more and more people take on companion animals and therapy animals and those sorts of things. When it comes to what a veterinary student needs, the coursework is very similar to a student who wants to do human medicine. It's still going to be biology and chemistry and physics and biochemistry. But what differentiates a vet student is, instead of having healthcare experiences, you need animal experiences, whether that's animals at a shelter, whether that's working in a veterinary office or assisting a large animal vet or working at a zoo. Anything where you're working with animals is going to be really important for a pre-vet student.
Great. Some colleges offer pre-med as pre-professional courses. So is it really different from taking biology as a major?
No, you know, one of the former institutions I worked with, we did have a pre-medicine major. And honestly, the coursework was pretty much exactly the same as a biology curriculum. It's just, you have to remember, in a biology curriculum, you are going to be taking courses in ecology, environmental sciences, and plant sciences as well, because biology is the study of all life, not just human life. Pre-medicine programs, though, and pre-medicine majors tend to focus just more on the human side of it. And so, you know, in a pre-medicine major, you won't have to take ecology or plant sciences, but in a biology major, you would.
All right. So Nandini wants to know a little about pharmacy. Like, she's an IB student in India and she wants to study pharmacy, but she doesn't know, is it a major already designed, or do you have to specifically go to a pharmacy school in the US?
In order to become a licensed pharmacist, you do have to attend pharmacy school. Now, some pharmacy schools are 3 to 4 years long post baccalaureate. Other schools, it's more integrated. So it just depends on the pharmacy school and how they do it.
All right. Someone is interested in becoming a zoologist. So could you tell them briefly about zoology related courses?
Yeah, so zoology, so I've seen zoology done in different ways. Some institutions, it's a biology degree that has a specialization in like wildlife or animal sciences. Other institutions are large enough where they're able to separate it out, and maybe through a college of agriculture do an actual animal science degree or wildlife studies degree. My institution where I work, we have a specified wildlife major that students who are interested in zoology, they gravitate towards that wildlife major because they just get to focus on animals through that versus the traditional biology route. And so it really just depends on what institution you end up at, whether it's a specific animal science program or whether it's going to be wrapped under the heading of biology.
All right. So someone asks that how significant do you consider astrochemistry as a profession in the field of science?
It's definitely it's out there. It's typically taught more through a physics department or an astronomy department, and not so much in a biological health professions arena.
Right. So this is a really interesting question. Someone wants to improve their skills as a volunteer at work or as an intern. So Nitin asks, how can I improve that?
Um, do
How
it.
can he improve himself being a volunteer?
Yeah, so honestly, it comes down to just doing it, trying new
Yeah.
things, reaching out to local resources, local service agencies that help people, whether that's helping the homeless or help at a food bank, helping give out food. Um, in the health professions, it's a helping profession. The idea, most people get into it for two reasons. They like science and they want to help people. And so anything you can do that helps improve the life of another person is how you do that. That could be as simple as delivering groceries to an elderly neighbor so that they don't have to go out, go shopping during COVID, or somebody, maybe a family member who just had surgery, helping them clean up their house or deliver groceries or make them meals. Those are things that you can do during a pandemic that, that give you that sense of helping people. And so just do things to help people. That's what you need to do to improve volunteering skills.
Superb. Someone asked that does Juniata have a pre-med major? Yes, Juniata has.
We don't have a pre-med major. We are at Juniata, we work on what's called programs of excellence. And so they are programs of exploration. The E depends on who, they're called POEs. The E, depending on who you talk to, gets a different connotation. But our programs are designed for flexibility and allowing students to really kind of design programs that really fit their interests and are tailored to their goals. And so we have a biology POE. And in that curriculum, it's about, depending on the courses that you take, it's about 45 to 60 credits. It depends how many lab courses you take, and that are required for the biology portion. And then the other 60 credits that are required are really up to you. And so we have some general education that you need to fulfill. And then you have, which is about 30 credits, and then 30 credits of truly exploratory courses. And some students take a lot of chemistry because they really like chemistry. Some students take psychology because they're really interested in psychology. And so Juniata, we're really unique because we allow our students to sort of almost design their own programs in a way, because students can fit into we have what are called designated POEs, or we have students who completely individualize a program. And so I have students who are, have programs in like biopsychology, where they're basically almost blending together a psychology POE and a biology POE into their own thing. And so Juniata is a little unique in that aspect. I've worked at both Penn State and Purdue University. Their majors are much more delineated. And so when you do a biology program, it's probably, 80 to 90 credits of specified coursework. So it just depends on the institution, how much freedom you have with the coursework that you're allowed to take.
All right. So someone asks about the prospects in marine biology or prospective career, and someone asks about neuroscience.
Okay. I think prospects, marine biology is going to grow because of climate change. People are very interested in what's happening in the oceans, and how climate change is affecting the oceans. And so I definitely think there's growth there. I mean, if you want to study marine biology, see where the research is being done. Most likely it's probably being done at, institutions that are close to the ocean. But I know at Penn State, which is, we're 6 hours from the ocean, one of the top coral researchers works there. So, see what type of marine biology you want to learn about and figure out where those people work. And that's where you want to apply. What was the other? Neuroscience. Neuroscience
Yes.
is definitely growing you know, especially as we get into, you know, brain chemistry and learning how the more we learn about the brain, the more we're learning about health overall. And so I think neuroscience is going to continue. I think it's going to be more of an academic research-based field, but that rather than a clinical-based field, like a physician. But obviously understanding how the brain works is always going to be important.
Yes, I think we can take 3-4 questions more. One of which would be, do Juniata have accelerated BS MD program open for international students?
I do. So we do have an affiliation. It's not an accelerated actually it is an accelerated program. It's a 3+4 program. It is with LECOM, so Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine. I am not sure if LECOM is open to international students or not. That I'm not 100% sure on, because they kind of control it. They're the ones who make LECOM makes the admissions decisions. We don't. So if you're interested in that style of program, it's with a College of Osteopathic Medicine.
All right. Someone wants to know about the subject requirements in psychology.
Psychology. So the subject requirements, you will take some basic intro biology, intro chemistry, inorganic chemistry, and then most of the psychological, courses are going to be, they're going to be offered through psychology departments, and you're going to take courses in developmental psychology, so how people learning methodologies, abnormal psychology, clinical psychology, research methods, in how to work with people, and sort of why people think the way that they do. Are you going to take physics? Depending on what your goals are. If you want to study psychology to go to medical school, yes, you will take physics. If you are studying psychology to become a counselor, probably won't have to take physics.
All right, so I think we can take the last question, where someone wants to know a little about dermatology and genetic engineering.
So dermatology obviously is the human skin. The skin is the largest organ on the human body. So that is something that you'll pursue at the medical school level. We don't typically teach dermatological sciences at an undergraduate level. And so there's really no subjects required beyond what's required for medical school: the biology, the chemistry, the organic chemistry, and the physics. Then once you get into medical school, that's where they will teach you the specific courses that you would need for dermatology.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I think there are a few more questions, and the email ID has already been displayed on the screen. If y'all can have a conversation over email with Professor Hunt and clear your doubts. So thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation, sharing your knowledge with us and answering so many questions and telling us so much about healthcare as a whole. So
okay, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.